Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello, good morning, and welcome back to the channel where you join me on a very cold but clear and beautiful winter's day here in Germany for probably my last visit here at the Nurburgring for the season, in front of the Nurburg Castle on the hill, having stayed at Apex. But today we have a long old drive to get the two Shmeemobiles that I have out here in Germany back home to the UK. In fact, it will be the first time that all of my cars have been together in the UK at the same time in quite a long time, and it will also be the first time that the SLS Black Series has been back to the UK since its massive road trip started earlier in the summer, right after it was painted in the Mystic Blue. We're going to be taking both cars back. The Red RS is soon to be departing from the garage, so we'll get it prepped for the new owner. But there are a few things to do later on. We will of course be heading through Belgium, through France, taking the Eurotunnel back over to England, but then we're going to be stopping off at the Mercedes-Benz dealership to sort out the final things I promise with the GT R Roadster before I can collect it, and then from there over to Dump Barn to the storage to drop off the SLS with some of the other Shmeemobiles before we take the Red RS back home. Let's get cracking though. It's a long old drive ahead. It is very cold here. Load up the cars and get out on the road. We have ourselves a bit of a convoy then today. It's about 400 miles, 600 kilometers or so to get back from here over to London. Both of the cars are absolutely filthy and in desperate need of a wash when we get back. I'm going to be driving the SLS Black Series, which I guess means we can have a compulsory daily cold start. Yes, they're also completely soaked, having been parked out overnight, but let's just enjoy the sound of this for a moment while we get things like the windows cleared up a little bit, because of course parked out in the cold, which does mean we get an extra crazy, incredibly loud cold start. Have a listen. Yes, sounds good. Sounds very good. So we'll warm them up for a moment, and then very shortly, I guess, when all the bags are loaded, we will depart for the journey. First stop being the Eurotunnel. Off we go then on a beautiful morning here in Nurburg. Of course, the weather here changes on a sixpence. So yesterday it was pouring with rain. Today it is beautiful and sunny and probably with a dry track, but that is the way these things go. For now, we're on the way. It says 4.5 hours, just shy of 500 kilometers to get to the Eurotunnel crossing. You do normally do it a little bit quicker than it says, because that includes going through passport control and that kind of thing. But obviously we're living in crazy, bizarre times, so I don't exactly know how all of this is going to go. We'll basically make our way. I think we need one fill up when we get to the edge of Germany, and then blast through Belgium and France and onwards to the UK. Well, like I said, the GT R Roadster is awaiting at the other end. You can actually see the view here of the Nurburgring F1 track, or you can see parts of it as we go on the outer perimeter road. Obviously we've got some small stretches of Autobahn ahead of us as well. A last blast on the Autobahn for the time being, probably with some annoying very low sun. I apologise for that if it's causing huge amounts of light and glare and all sorts of things, but it is the way it is. I'm not complaining. Much nicer to drive on a sunny day than one where it's pouring with rain. There's definitely something nice about driving on a very sunny winter's day. Of course, we've still got lots of orange leaves on the trees. It's just a really nice place around here, very remote, very far from everything. But I know a lot of you are wondering, and obviously the quest now will continue to try and find the Shmuseum location, the garage where eventually my cars will live, and I'll set it up with everything that I've collected along the way. And many people have pointed out, why don't I just do that at the Nurburgring? Well, there are a few things and topics around this that I've discussed with myself, and I've gone backwards and forwards. I've actually been to look at units here as well, but basically I feel like there's a lot of fun and excitement that comes from travelling to the Nurburgring, from doing the journey, from visiting somewhere away from home. Of course, this year I've been here a lot, but normally I'd also be in the Middle East, be in the US, be more around Europe, so normally I wouldn't be able to be here quite so much, and that appeal would go if I was permanently here, and I'd lose some of the excitement. So that's one of the reasons. The other is that it's very awkward to get from here to other places. You know, the nearest airport is, well, basically the nearest big airport is almost 2 hours drive away, and can be even further if the traffic is bad. So it's not the same as living in a big city. It's a completely different type of place. I love coming here, and I would think about having a small storage type setup here, having a place where maybe I could keep a couple of cars. I think that could be an option down the line, and have a slightly smaller storage back in the UK. But I have to wait and see as well what happens with the regulations and the rules, because obviously big things are changing with Brexit in Europe, so we don't know at the moment whether it's going to be possible to do this so freely in the way that we've been able to over the last couple of years. So all a waiting game at the moment. The primary thing I want to set up is a storage unit in the UK, and maybe when that gets too full, that's the right time to keep some cars in a different place, and then the Nurburgring could be the right place to do that. We will have to see. This is, however, a very, very nice, pretty drive, leisurely drive at the moment. Autobahn ahead, But yeah, onwards, doing well on time, and we'll see how it goes. The moment where I've been following a truck for ages, but we arrive at the start of the de-restricted Autobahn. So we go into manual, we start dropping some gears. Naturally, it sounds ridiculous.
That a lot, and I say miss it not because this car's going anywhere, but just because there's nowhere in the UK you can do this. That was absurd. Listen to those noises, and I think I lost the red RS there. Didn't go too crazy. Oh, I think I can see it coming. I think I can see it coming in a second. Just, yeah. Redtech R1 package. What an absolute delight. And there goes the red RS. Look at that thing. Even that's just a really cool car. A lot of effort has gone into it. Obviously can't hear it over this at all. Just a cool labour of love, a lot of work, and I will be sad to see that go. I will be sad to say farewell to the red RS. 2.5 years that project has been in the making. That's how these things go, hey, onwards. I think we should start thinking about what the next project should be. Definitely open to some ideas. Maybe I should go for an A45S after all. I talked so much about it. But that could be a great car to work on as we cruise along with these two. What are your thoughts? Maybe there's another car that hasn't crossed my mind that could be a good shout as a project car, as something maybe more Nurburgring focused, talking about the ring, maybe something built to be a track weapon. I mean, the focus is more track focused than show focused, but there are still some things that I would have done if I was going to keep it entirely on the track. Oh, this is so silly. Anyway, we'll keep going, nothing crazy. Just going to miss the sounds of this going full throttle when back home and it's no longer possible. Drop a gear. Up to the red line. At 275 kilometers an hour. That's roughly 173, something like that, miles an hour. Anyway, like I said, we're going to be taking most of this journey at the easier end of the spectrum. A bit of a cruise, anyway, we've got some roadworks here. And yeah, onwards towards the Eurotunnel. I'd forgotten, this is where we have the very brief part where we go through the Netherlands. There are basically two main routes you can take to go from the Nurburgring area back towards the Eurotunnel. Either you cut a little bit more south and go straight through Belgium and then into France, or you go up through a little part of the Netherlands and then across through Belgium. And the Netherlands now, because it's daytime, means the 100 km/h speed limit, which is totally bizarre. The whole country just with this really slow 100 km/h limit during daytime hours. And you're just, yeah, I think it's an emissions thing as opposed to anything else. But yeah, take it easy now. No more Autobahn. I'm hoping we're going to make the train that we booked. Otherwise, we're going to be on one that runs fairly later because the train schedule for the Eurotunnel at the moment is quite sparse. They're not running every slot 3 per hour as they normally do. Only one every hour or two. So let's see what happens. We've gone all the way through Belgium and now we go into France, and the regular viewers amongst you might be quite surprised by this. It has been sunny, there's been no traffic, it's been a clear and easy drive, which is bizarre and very much appreciated. Quite often going through Belgium there are really big traffic jams and some very bad weather quite often, to be honest, and today is still sunny and beautiful and glorious. But I don't think I'm going to make the train, or we're going to make the train I should say. The red RS is still in tow that was intended earlier today, so we'll have to see what happens when we get to the Eurotunnel terminal and check in. But to be honest, this has been a pretty easy drive, easy going. I'm actually really quite excited now to get to the UK side and to go and see the GT R Roadster. And like I said, there's one thing we need to sort out, one document to sign, and then it's good for collection in the coming days If not tomorrow, we'll see. It depends what we can do with everything that's going on. So stay tuned for that. For now, the last half an hour, and then we are on the train.
It transpires that the schedule is not running exactly as we expected, so we will be able to get the next train. I'm not sure exactly when that's going to be, but as you can tell, it is quite cold and very windy here, and the clouds are coming. The sunshine is going to be gone. So quite shortly, we'll get on the train. It's a half an hour crossing to the UK, then we've got about 2 hours to get to the Mercedes dealer to see the Roadster, then an hour to Dumbarn, an hour onwards to get back home. So still a fair amount to go, but let's go get boarded in the not too distant future.
An hour or so later, and we are finally boarding the Eurotunnel train. There has actually been a problem. I think they had a faulty train, which has meant that they actually offloaded one, and we're now getting on at the very tail of that. Because we had Flexi, we were able to skip onto this. They let just 2 or 3 extra cars go through, so that was well worth the upgrade, because I imagine the next train is probably a good hour or so away, but it does mean at the other end it's going to take a very long time to get this unloaded. I've also just had a phone call, which makes me immensely frustrated that with regulations in the UK, banks, finance, payouts, it might not be so easy to get the Roadster, but we'll find out more about that later on. Just, yeah, let's see what happens. It's a chaotic time, I think we all know that. Well, we made it back to England, back on the ground for the first time in a very, very long time with this car. First time back here in about half a year. Obviously my left-hand drive car that has done most of its mileage with driving the correct way around for the car. Now, I'm not going to lie, this car is probably going to have a quiet winter, like the Ford GT when I got it home last year after the massive tour around America. I think it's probably going to spend most of its next few months as my navigation tries to work out where exactly we are, chilling in the storage, but it probably gets that after doing as many miles as it has. For the time being, we will grab a fill up and then we will continue the drive towards Mercedes in London, where of course it will be dark before we get there. It's that time of year now, which is no fun, but it is what it is. There are a few things that I always notice about coming back to the UK after I've been away driving around Europe for a while, as we go past a truckload of Porsches, including a GT4 and a Taycan and everything else that's really cool. Turbos, that's actually a really nice selection of cars on the back of that transporter. I was going to say though, the roads are always packed, always everywhere you go, completely heaving. The road surfaces, as you can hear, are pretty awful, and every single bump you feel completely from a car like this, a car as stiff as this. And finally, the lane discipline of drivers in the UK, not the best. Not compared to driving in Germany, for example, where everybody is always aware of what's going on behind them. Here, it's a little bit like speeding up, slowing down, quite hard to judge exactly what other people are going to do. Anyway, it's a funny place to drive. It's by far the least exciting country to drive in of the places I go and visit, which is always a slight disappointment about coming home after I was talking earlier in this video about whether I should move to the Nurburgring or not. That's quite nice. Green 911 convertible. Yeah, driving in the UK, it's boring. Very, very boring. Maybe I should say driving near London is boring. You need to get away from the big cities to find some beautiful countryside, and when you do, the roads are lovely. Anyway, it's not quite dark yet, but it's still a nice day. In fact, to do such a long slog in winter without it pouring with rain has actually been brilliant.
We made it, we've done everything we needed to do. It is very cold and very dark here as expected, but the GT R Roadster is this close now, this close literally. It will be days, I hope. I will update on that as soon as we can, but for the time being, we now need to take the SLS over to Dumbarn, back in the car, on the road to the other Shmeemobiles. Fast forward, and the SLS is back here at Dumbarn, ready to be stored away, although it's going to need a proper clean up before. It is absolutely filthy, so it'll get cleaned up before it's stored, where we have some of the other Shmeemobiles. Here on the racks behind, there is a gap I will explain in a second, but at the front we have the GTC 4 Lusso under its cover at the moment. Behind that, we have the AMG GT R Pro. Quite hard to tell actually when they're under covers, although that front grille gives it away a little bit. We've got the 675 LT Spider up top. We've also got the McLaren Senna back. Remember, that was over in Germany. It's been transported home, having left it out in Stuttgart. Then normally sitting right on top would be the Ford GT, but that's currently out with Ford for its annual service. The guys here kindly took it over to get that done. It should be returned quite soon as well. The SLS, however, has had a mega road trip. I think about 12,000 miles this year, way more than I ever intended. It is totally covered in grime. It hasn't had a wash in a good fair old while. I did go and do this again on my last outing at the Nurburgring. Cheap part to replace, very annoying that it keeps happening. And remember, normally those wheels would be bright silver. They are more a titanium grey right now, so they are absolutely filthy, coated in grime. But what a car it is. What a journey it's been, to be honest. An absolutely epic thing. A permanent Shmeemobile, no question about it. Of course, I'd intended to spend this year with this car over in the USA. That didn't happen. Travel restrictions and everything. But still, heading all around Europe with it. What an amazing adventure. What an amazing journey. What an amazing way to build up some epic memories with a really special car, the SLS Black Series, that in the future will of course be joined by the GT Black Series. First up though comes the GT R Roadster. I promise, fingers crossed, it's coming in the next few days. We're not gonna have any more issues getting all of this sorted, and I can explain all as well. For now, I am exhausted, as you can tell. It's been a long old drive. We need to head home with the Red RS, which I suppose technically is actually its last drive. I said it was at the Nurburgring, but now I'm gonna have a short little drive with it. Yeah. Exhausting day. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I appreciate your support as always. Just a bit of an errand vlog traveling with the Shmeemobiles today. That's it. I'll see you soon. Cheers.